the conference. So I will present you a bit of the Catalan culture and language. And as you probably have read in the booklet, basically there are 10 million speakers, so it depends a bit how you count it. Maybe 9, maybe 11. There is a country, Andorra, tiny one, in which the only official language is Catalan. It's quite an old language if we think that in the 12th century there were already literary texts. Before that there were some things that are half Catalan, half Latin. As any other languages, it exists also a Catalan Braille, also a synced Catalan for deaf people. It's related to Romance, other Romance languages, such as Spanish or Italian, French. Around the Eastern Pyrenees, it evolved from Vulgar Latin, and then there was a point in the lower Middle Ages that it was widely used in the Mediterranean. Then somehow, languages are big or small. That's not casual. It's usually it's political. So in this case, it was banned in Spain, in France. Then it revived in the 18th century. There was a guy here who's important, and I talk a bit about him, Pompeu Fabra. It's interesting, something called Kataluna Antologio. Then there is another guy, Franco, who is also important in this story. And since he died, Catalan is kind of booming, or is going better than before. Wikipedia is quite, I think it's in the first 20 in the number of articles, and it was the second or the third that was created. And then Duolingo. We have 7 dialects, I think, and Gloria here is an expert on this. And maybe we'll hear later something on how does it sound. So, you may be surprised to hear that, if you don't live in Catalonia, basically the main way people now learn Catalan is in Duolingo, and I'm quite proud because I'm part of the team that created that it's not that a merit. I mean, everyone could have done it, but you see almost 800,000 people yesterday from Spanish. So if you actually try to use it, you will see sentences like, volem una república anarquista y esperantista. We want an anarchist and Esperantist republic. So this is the kind of things you can find. Okay, so where do Catalan speakers live? In different places. Probably Spain, you already know that. Andorra, I've mentioned. You see in Spain, it's in Catalonia, but also in other regions, and also in the south of France, and in this little town in Sardinia, in Italy. It's called L'Alghero. And most of the people live in Catalonia, in other regions of Spain. This Alguero is 20,000 people. So, Now, how did we become this, or a bit of history here? Now I changed it because I'm using a PDF, and that's better. I mean, these maps are not very precise, but basically they give you a sense of the fact that there has been a lot of evolution. You can see here that Catalan at the beginning, like 1,000 years ago, it was smaller, then it became bigger, and then smaller again, not as small as the beginning. You can see also the evolution in other languages around. So let's go step by step. This is in the year 900 after Christ, And you see, if you remember here, that most of the, it works, most of the Iberian Peninsula in this period is Arabic, and in the Pyrenees, basically there is something called Marca Hispanica, where Catalonia is, and that's basically the division between the Carolingian Empire and the Muslim people, right? So you can see that for 1,000 years, basically for geographical reasons, there has been a bit of difference, and Catalonia has been closer to Europe. Then this picture, I found it, and the title of this picture when I found it is The Catalan Empire. Okay, this is in the lower Middle Ages, as I mentioned, and yeah, was it an empire? I don't know. First of all, was it Catalan? Actually, you know, Catalonia was never a kingdom, so it was part of the crown in Aragon. If you go now to the south of Italy, and for example in Naples, you can still find many places where they say things related to Aragon. But if there are Greek people here or people that know Greek, maybe you can correct me. I think in the Greek language, if you're a child, for example, that you don't want to go to bed, your mother will tell you, if you don't go to bed, Catalans will come. Because in this period of the empire, well, part of Catalans were, you know, mercenaries and quite strong and powerful, and they reached Athens and they left this expression. So, well, that's the way it is. Now, the birth of Spain. This legally happened in 1469. 1469, there are two people, queen and a king, who decide to marry. These things happen. And they create a state. Basically, Castile and Aragon, then other kingdoms will join. And what is interesting is that while there is formally a single state, these two big kingdoms, Castile and Aragon, keep their own institutions, keep their own languages. So you remember when Spanish people discovered America? 1492. Before it didn't exist. So, but what is interesting, 1492, this is after the birth of Spain, in this sense. And you know which are the most spoken languages in Latin America? It's Spanish, it's Portuguese, it's not Catalan, not at all. I mean, later some Catalans went there, and actually there are some prime ministers who have very recognizable surnames which are Catalan. But what happens was that only the crown of Castile discovered America. Because as the kingdoms were formally united, but in practice separated, it was Castile who decided to found Christopher Columbus, who sponsored him, and that's it. So for a number of centuries, Aragon kept their institutions, their languages, which were actually three: Spanish, Aragonese, and Catalan. Then situation changed, and for example, Catalan was banned. And it's interesting, this map is in the year 18,000. And they say we have several parts of Spain here. The part in the left is España uniforme, uniform Spain. The part on the right is assimilated Spain. So once the language has been banned, now these people have been assimilated. You can see also in the south there are some colonies in Philippines, for example. So yeah, that was the political situation by then. Meanwhile, in France, more or less in the same period, also Catalan was forbidden. I mean, it's not that they have something against Catalan because Catalans were wherever. It's just every language that was not French was a danger, you know, to build a central state, and in Spain was kind of similar. The French were actually more successful on that. So this is in the 18th century. Now we reach 19th century, and that the situation starts changing. There is this is called Renaissance, and in different parts of Europe there are cultural movements to favor minorities and communities that want to become a nation state. Catalans is one of them. They create these jocs florals, which is literary contest. Thanks. So a literary contest, which is quite famous in the period. And then let me ask you something. Do you agree with that? Is a language a dialect that has an army and navy? Well, okay, that's an interesting comment. So actually, in my opinion, and this is partially true, but I want to give you another factor. In my opinion, a language is a dialect that has a Pompeu Fabra. Do you remember this person that we mentioned before? So who is this guy that is necessary to have a language? This is the guy that when this movement of Renaissance was booming, he decided to normatize the language, to say these words are actually in correct, normative, good Catalan, the rest, no. So we have to forget this because this is Spanish, we have to forget this is French, and he actually created several words. So about Esperanto, with the whole discussion about natural languages, artificial languages, if you want to have a language that is recognized, you need to have a certain of artificiality, you need to have a Pompeu Fabra. So if you think about it, every language that exists today had someone to do that. If not, it just becomes really difficult to learn. Okay, so that's at the beginning of 20th century. Now, the Catalans were so interested in that period to make themselves heard internationally that even they used Esperanto, and this is an anthology of Catalan literature that was published in 1925, and it became quite successful. And there are some reviews in different parts of the world. There was a second edition, and several other national minorities thought that this was a good idea and did something similar. The Bulgarians, the Estonians, the Belgians. Yeah. Okay, if you know the history, you know that I'm going quite fast. I'm not mentioning every particular period. This is a big dictatorship that we had. We had a previous dictatorship before, but let's concentrate with this one. I'm not sure if you can read that. This guy was the head of state, Spain, for almost 40 years. And here it says, hable bien, sea patriota, no sea bárbaro. So you have to speak good, speak well, be a patriot, don't be a barbarian. That means, please speak Spanish, without please. And it says, es de cumplido caballero que usted hable nuestro idioma oficial, o sea, el castellano. Es ser patriota. Viva España y la disciplina y nuestro idioma cervantino. Arriba España. So, yeah, I mean, there are some discussions today about to what extent Catalan was banned in this period, because there were some manifestations, and especially in the 70s, there were some cultural activities. What it was definitely was repressed, and it was banned for public uses. So it was not taught at school. You couldn't use it in the administration. etc. By the way, this was a dictatorship. In the meantime, in France, which was a democracy, you had similar things like here, and they said, be clean and speak French. That was the motto. Here it's be a patriot and speak well. Okay, so Franco was our head of state for almost 40 years, but eventually he died. And he died in bed. It's not like other dictators that they had a war, they lost, and everything changes. Here, things were slower because he died in bed. But for the Catalan language, actually, that was a great thing. And Catalan language and culture became more visible. And you know, these human towers, right? I don't know what you think. It's probably the part of our culture that I like the most. You know that there is also a typical dancing which is called sardana, and it's very typical and very traditional, but this I think is nicer. And if you go to Google and you write Castellers or human towers, you will find amazing pictures. I had to decide to choose which ones to show, and actually it's really difficult because there are many great pictures. This is, I think it's in September in Tarragona. They do a contest between several groups, and there are always one group that always wins. So it's kind of competition there. And this is also very typical because it's in the center of Barcelona. You know, at one side is the Catalan government, and in front of that, in the same square, there is the municipality. So, a bit about the language. It's a Romance language, like many others here. So, Spanish, French, Italian, Romanian. And if you, I mean, from several, I'm not an expert on this, but I do speak some of these languages, and in my experience, it comes closer to French and Italian than to Spanish, at least the way it sounds, some of the words. And there is this example from Wikipedia, which is also a great thing. And we see, for example, window, we say finestra, and in Spanish is ventana. To eat, we say manjar, and in Spanish is comer. Morning, matí, mattina in Italian, mañana. Also parlar, parlare, hablar, falar. So it's a bit different. I mean, these are like chosen words. You can find many of them in which they are also close to Spanish. And if you think about it, the last centuries we've been part of the same state, so there's a lot of influence. And the influence goes in the two directions. So I'm from Barcelona, and my parents are not from Catalonia, so I think my Spanish is quite good. But when I speak with other people from Spain, they instantly know that I'm Catalan, because I use some words that in other parts of Spain they don't. So this influence is both ways. Now, this is the time when you get to hear how the language sounds. And, you know, here there are some native speakers in this symposium, in this gathering. And there are many other people who speak Catalan well, so I thought that this wouldn't be really a course for you, I mean for me to teach you how it sounds. But I found this conversation guide in Esperanto, which is not recommended for minors, and I thought that as you are not minors, maybe this could be interesting for you. So, you probably cannot read it, can you? Okay, so it says lligar, basically make out. I mean, this is a part of the guide. It's not that the whole guide is about this, but this part. Diuen que l'amor és l'autèntic idioma universal i que no li calen paraules, però per als clàssics que encara valoren l'ús de la paraula en l'art de la seducció, aquí teniu una petita ajuda. La resta ja depèn de vosaltres. So they say that love is the authentic universal language, that love doesn't need words, but for those of you who still value the use of words in the art of seduction, here you may find some help, and the rest, yeah, it's up to you. So the first thing it says, em caus bé, I like you, ets molt simpàtic, you understand, vas molt elegant, portes un vestit molt bonic, your dress is really nice, tens un whatever, you have your whatever is molt bonic, it's very nice, it's beautiful. So this is cabell, nas, nas is this, coll, somriure, veu, is what I'm doing, mirada, pentinat, here they say ull de vidre and cama de fusta, so probably these are words not very useful. Cama de fusta is bootleg, so maybe you don't know who are you trying to, whatever, right? So ulls, llavis, dents, and let's say, la bellesa és a l'interior de la persona. So what is beautiful is inside of the person. Vols que anem al jardí? Do you want to go with me to the garden? Vols que anem a un lloc més tranquil? To a more quiet place? Vols que anem a passejar una mica? Do you want to go for a walk? Vols que anem a prendre alguna cosa? To drink something? Tens molta personalitat. M'agrades. Et puc fer un petó? Can I kiss you? Els teus llavis són dolços com la mel. So that is, your lips are sweet as the honey. Thanks, honey. Okay, això els ho dius a totes. You say this to everyone. This I don't know in English. Ets una estreta? Like, yeah, you are like narrow. I mean, these are like suggestions, but that doesn't mean that you actually have to use them. Right? And que et bombin porc, it's kind of, yeah, what, fuck you? Okay. Tanca la boca is shut your mouth. Vols venir a casa meva? You wanna come to my place? Vols venir al meu hotel? You wanna come to my hotel? A la meva habitació? To my room? A aquell racó fosc? To that dark corner? Vols venir darrere aquells matolls? You wanna come behind those bushes? And then there is this conversation. T'estimo, jo també. Tens condoms? Like, I love you. Me too. You have condoms? Then there are some verbs that may be useful, I don't know. So, xuclar is sac, to sac, llepar is to lick, anar-se'n al llit, going to bed, follar, to fuck, munyir is milking, again, you don't need to say it, fer-ho pel darrere is do it from behind. Ho sento, no m'havia passat mai, I'm sorry, this is the first time that happens to me. No passa res, és normal. It's okay, it's normal. La mida no importa, diuen. Size doesn't matter, they say. No coneixia aquesta postura. Surt al Kama Sutra? I didn't know this position. Can we find it in Kama Sutra? Then there is words for mouth, boca, breasts, pits, nipple, mugró, belly button, which is melik, and then there is pussy and dick, which is cony and polla. So this is being recorded, right? Okay. Ara tomba't. Now, lie down. Tens un culet tan apetitós com un préssec. Your ass, your little ass, is as appetizing as a peach. Per aquí no, animal. Not here, animal. Perdó, m'he equivocat de camí. Sorry, wrong way. S'ha de provar tot, sense vergonya. We must try everything, no shame. Molt bé, continua així, no paris. Go on, don't stop. T'ha agradat? Did you like it? Repetim? Amb 4 ja tinc prou. 4 is enough. No puc més. It's too much. Deixa'm descansar. Let me rest. Ok. Ja et trucaré. I'll call you. And thank you. Yeah, so it actually sounds that I'm selling it, but not. You can buy it through the Universal Esperanto Association bookshop, and they have the catalog also online, and the Catalan Esperanto Association. And yeah, actually, I was thinking it serves both ways. If you want to learn Catalan, if you want to learn Esperanto, if you want to learn the two at the same time, I mean, just be imaginative. Who are you using these words with?
Well, the thing is, there's a book out called Hot International, and it has phrases just like that in English, Spanish, French, Czech, Portuguese, German. And halfway through the book, it starts getting kind of inappropriate, but you get parallel text in 7 languages, and you learn basic phrases, you learn full sentences, and you can replace words with more appropriate. But it is a small book about yay big, and it's a great learning resource. So with limited Catalan resources, this would actually be a great thing to learn to have parallel text. Probably one of the few out there, I guess, right?
Should I have to repeat?
Where do you get a copy? No, it sounds like
No. It's me that I have to repeat what you said for the video. So it was a very wonderful, extremely interesting contribution that, honestly, apparently there is something like this guide which exists for a number of languages, and it's kind of small size and very useful, and there is a number of languages, and some of the words are the same, some are different. And I think it's a great way of learning languages and using them. This is not just learn it, but using them. And it's kind of funny. You try to pronounce one of these long sentences, and then if you smile, probably the other person will laugh. And
Another question, does Catalan has big differences in grammar in comparison with Castellano, or is it like mostly about roots in different vocabulary? Like, for example, I don't know, there is some subjunctive that is in Castellano and there isn't in Catalan. I know it's hard for native speakers to talk about the grammar of the language. But
yeah, especially if you are a native speaker of both. So the question is if the Catalan grammar is really different from the Spanish grammar. I think.
Or maybe some apparent differences.
Yeah. Now I don't know about the subjunctive. Probably there is. Probably there are. When I learned Portuguese, I found that Portuguese and Spanish were almost identical when you read them. Obviously they sound really different, and with they have also one tense at least that is different, but with Catalan and Spanish you have more differences, and there is something called pronoms febles that in Spanish you don't have, and that they exist and they are quite important in French and in Italian and in Catalan, and in Spanish and in Portuguese you don't have. The past tense is what?
When you do the past tense.
Oh yeah.
It's surprising.
Okay. Yeah. So there is this question about the past in Catalan, which is quite different from other languages, from Spanish, but also from other languages. We say, for example, this real past, that yesterday I went to Bratislava. So ahí yo vaig anar. We used to compose tense, periphrastic. That in French is similar to the way in French I think they use it for the future, and we use it for the past, and in Spanish doesn't exist. So I think this is quite particular of Catalan. There's one question here and one there.
Yeah, actually I have to comment that first I just wanted to thank you for making the Spanish to Catalan Duolingo course. I really enjoyed using it. I haven't gone through everything, but I really liked it. Thanks. And the second thing is that I wanted to share another resource. It's a website called Parla.cat, C-A-T, and it's a great resource because you get like human speech, and they have like all the it's just another free online resource to use to complement Duolingo.
Okay, this is also a great contribution. She mentions that there is another resource to learn for free Catalan, which is parla.cat, so parla.cat, and this is, I haven't used it, but my understanding is that it's very complete. It's produced by the Catalan government, and it has more than 200,000 users. Yeah, it's quite useful also online. Thanks.
Yeah, what is the status of the language in France? Is it still, what is the status in France? Is it status?
So the question is, what is the status of Catalan in France? Again, I'm not an expert, but I would say that is allowed. So there are in southern France what Catalans called Northern Catalonia. There are some schools which are all private, funded by normally southern Catalans, even the Catalan government probably, and there the main language at school is Catalan. Obviously people learn French like the other French, but it's a kind of a minority. And as far as I know, France is one of the few countries in the European Union that hasn't ratified the Charter for Minorities Languages, Regional and Minority Languages, which is a European regulation that basically says that the government should do some things in order to protect minority languages. I think it's not compulsory to do it, but they prefer not to do it. This is something that in the different electoral campaigns, especially at the regional level, it appears. So honestly, I don't know if the people who actually rule these regions in France are in favor or not. Yeah, it's not forbidden anymore, of course, but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, in France there are, I don't know, 10 languages at least that are in the same situation, like Occitan and Basque and Corse and yeah.
In Catalonia, you have a regional government. It's considered a nationality but not a nation. Do you think maybe one day in your lifetime there will be an independent country, Catalonia?
So the question is, do I think in my lifetime there will be an independent Catalonia? I don't know. I honestly don't know. You probably know that we are in this so-called process of independence that now is of referendum, and it's not even clear if there will be this referendum. I mean, I don't know. In Quebec, for example, in the middle 90s, they voted if they wanted independence or not for the second time, because apparently they do it every generation, and those who wanted to not be an independent state won, but the margin was really, really small. So today, I was there some weeks ago, and apparently no one cares about that anymore. So it's like things changed. In Scotland, on the contrary, there was also a referendum, you know, some months ago, even 1 year, and still the situation is going, so I don't know what will happen. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Do you hope so?
I don't think. So the question was if I know what's the menu for today. I don't think many things will change. I mean, if you look at the history of Europe, just there are changes in frontiers, and it's not such a big deal. So if it happens, it's okay. If it doesn't happen, I have 5 minutes. Question?
I had the same question, so thank you.
I would just like to add, just as a curiosity, that like in Czechoslovakia it was vice versa. Like we wanted to stay together, but they didn't ask us and they separated us.
Okay, so the comment was, it's interesting that in Czechoslovakia the situation was the opposite. Czechs and Slovaks wanted to remain together, but the government said that they had other plans and they did it. And
question about the dialect of Mallorca, because I have seen they use the S instead of the L, like they do in Starbucks. And those are the only places in the whole Romance world where they didn't take over the same with L, same pronoun to make it an article. Do you consider the Balearic version a separate dialect, and how many dialects? We have 8 dialects, maybe tell me how many dialects do you really need to describe current day Catalan, including Valencian and all that, which don't want to be called.
So the question is about the Catalan that is spoken in Mallorca and in the Balearic Islands, and it's interesting because in one of the first maps it said this color is for Catalan of Catalonia, this color is for Catalan of Valencia, and in Valencia they prefer to call it Valencian, but actually the difference between those types of Catalan is quite small. The difference between the Catalan of Catalonia and the Catalan of Mallorca is bigger. If your ear is not used to, it's hard because they used a different article. They say sa casa instead of la casa. I think also there is a historical reason for that. In the Costa Brava, there are some people who speak this way, and I think when Catalans colonized the islands, maybe they came from there. I don't know. But I forgot what the question was.
What about there is a link with down in French, where they speak from the rest of the old, the language between, and do you consider that as part of your territory, or as something, well, rest from the medieval period that's totally different?
Yeah, you mean the Val d'Aran? Ah, yeah, sorry. This is actually something that I have. Should be in my presentation. Okay, in Catalonia we have actually 3 official languages: Spanish, Catalan, and then there is this tiny valley. It's called Val d'Aran, and they had a special status. They have a different languages, which is actually a dialect of Occitan, and then I don't know, 10,000 people, and it's extremely well protected as compared with many other minorities. Probably they need more and whatever, but imagine 10,000 people and it's official in a territory of 7 million people. So no, that's not Catalan. That's different. It's interesting for many reasons. This part of Catalonia, they consider themselves also a bit different. So if the referendum takes place, it's not clear what they will vote. Although, from a language perspective, Catalans are very aware of minorities, and they always say that if we ever have an independent state, these people from the Aran Valley will be extremely protected. They don't have anything to worry about. There's a last question there.
I'm thinking about moving to Barcelona, maybe next year.
It's a great decision, yeah? Well, it's a good question. I guess like in everywhere, if they see that you are trying to learn, or at least that you are aware that Catalan exists, which is much more than the average tourist knows when they go to Barcelona, that's enough. If you actually want to live there, you want to be integrated in the society, you need to learn it. If you speak Spanish or French or Italian, I think. And if you are in this polyglot that people speak 20 languages, you will learn it very, very fast.
Just a very short comment. I was on holiday near Barcelona, and I said to the guy at the reception, "Bon appetit," and he was very happy because he didn't expect us who is saying that.
So yeah, we say bon appetit before going to bed. Thanks a lot.